Hey makeup friends! Today I'm going to be going through all of the items that I picked up in the month of January, and we're going to be doing a lot in this video. Not only am I going to share the top 5 and the bottom 5, but I'm also going to give you a little bit more of a thorough review on the items now that I've had some time to actually play with them and put them to the test. So let's get into this. I want to start, as always, by welcoming you back to my channel, or if you are new here, then hello and welcome. My name is Kara, and on my channel we like to mix beauty, brains, and the occasional F-bomb. On my eyes today is one of the palettes we're going to be talking about. It's the Iceland Palette from Nomad Cosmetics, and on my lips I have Kinda Sexy from MAC. I suspect that I'm going to get some questions on the earrings, and I am 90% certain that I got them at Shein. There's a 10% chance that they're from Wish. I genuinely cannot remember. I'm going to look for them. If I can find them, I will link them down below, but I mean, they're adorable. I'm pretty sure they're from Shein. Anyways, let's dive into the video because we have a lot of products to cover. I have some of them contained in this little basket here, and then I have gone ahead and pulled out the top 5 and the bottom 5 and one honorable mention. So what I think I'm going to do for this video is we're going to start with the bottom 5, then we're going to move into like no man's land, and we're going to end on the high note, and I'm going to share with you my top 5 items from January. Now bear in mind, when I say bottom 5, it's bottom 5 of the items that I tried. So this isn't necessarily like the worst foundation I've ever tried or the worst eyeshadow palette. It's just these are the worst from what I tried in January. Okay, so coming in number 5 or number 1, how do we do this? So coming in as like the best of the worst, I guess, is this foundation here from TLB. This is the Skin Serum Foundation with hyaluronic acid and Irish moss extract, and I have it in the shade 102. It comes with a brush already attached to it, although as I understand it, you now have the option to buy it with the attached brush or to buy it with a pump. Definitely go for the pump because I can't take that brush off. I've only used it a few times and you can see just how janky it's already getting. Not the most hygienic thing. So that packaging in and of itself is a bit of an issue for me. But my problem with this is that the shade range is fairly limited. So while there are fair, medium, and deep options and quite a breadth of depth, I suppose you could say, the undertones aren't really as fleshed out as I would like them to be. So this one comes off a little bit pink on my skin. It's also the second lightest of the options that they have, and at that it's still a little bit deep on my skin, and I am not deep by any stretch. Now come summer months I do deepen up, but at this time of year when I have reverted to my actual non-sun-kissed self, I'm an NC20, I am right in light category. This one I think is going to work a little bit better for me in the summer, but even at that it still is a little bit more on the peachy side, whereas I need a little bit more on the yellow side. So the undertone doesn't really work for me. I did order some samples from them before I purchased this, and I ordered like 102, 103, and 104, and there was a significant difference in terms of depth between those three. And so I don't know, I think if you're a very fair-skinned person, either get the sample of the lightest shade or give it a pass altogether because I think it skews a little bit deeper. If you have a deeper complexion though, that's going to be right up your alley and you might have better luck in terms of finding something that matches you. That undertone issue might remain, so I just want to put that on your radar because it's not really broken down in terms of undertone, it's just broken down in terms of depth. So I found it hard to match myself. I kind of just like crossed my fingers and hoped for the best. It's workable, but overall not the best. In terms of the actual foundation itself, take the shade out of it, it performs nicely. It does add a lot of coverage. It's sort of a medium buildable up to full coverage. It has a natural finish. It's not super heavy or anything of that sort on the skin, although it is thicker than some of the other foundations I'm going to talk about today. It's comfortable to wear, but honestly, it's not one of those foundations that I put on and I'm like, oh my God, I look amazing. You know what I mean? It just kind of is what it is. Frankly, it's just not my favorite foundation out there. I am interested to try their tinted moisturizer that they've just come out with, because I think that kind of coverage and that kind of consistency is going to work better for me, but overall the foundation I'm just not in love with. Next up in terms of worst category is this mascara here from Maybelline. This is the Sky High mascara. I have talked about it a few times in other videos. I'm just not in love with it. It claims not to be clumping, and yet my experience is that it very much is clumping. It's also kind of a pain in the ass to wash off at the end of the day, despite them calling it a washable mascara, which apparently also means that it might be a tubing mascara. I don't know how tubing and washable are on the same playing field, but what do I know? Regardless, it just doesn't do what it claims it's going to do, and it doesn't not do what it says it won't do, and overall I'm just disappointed with it. I think there are far better options at the drugstore, and I think there's far better options from Maybelline themselves. Go with their regular Lash Sensational and give this one a pass. Alright, and now I'm about to pick on e.l.f. So, sorry. However, I picked up some of their mint products, and then I thought, okay, well, while I'm doing that, why don't I pick up a bunch of other products from e.l.f., and then I'll do like a full face of e.l.f. get ready with me video, except it never happened because honestly, I just don't want to. I'm sorry, I just don't. So I know that there have been some people who have said that they would be interested in hearing my thoughts on e.l.f. You're gonna hear it here. I don't feel like doing a dedicated video, sorry. So there are 3 products that are in the worst category here. One is this lipstick here. I don't even know what this lipstick's called because there's like no indication on here. All I know is that it is in the shade Cream or Creme. I don't know how to say it. Whatever. It's just a lipstick. There it is. It's a pretty shade. My problem with it is that when I apply it, it is so patchy. And then I try to build up the pigmentation on it and it just like moves the lipstick around on my lips, and then it's like it's afraid of the inner portion of my lips, so it just like has this weird line of demarcation, and it just overall it's a pain in the ass to apply. If you want to wear this kind of lipstick, definitely I would recommend going in with a lip pencil first, just to give it something to like adhere to. But it's a pain in the ass to work with. It just doesn't look nice on the lips. It has a very low price point, so that's great, but I just don't see myself reaching for this because it's such a pain in the ass to work with. Then we have another lip product from them, and this is part of their Mint collection. This is the Mint Melt Lip Plumping Gloss, which honestly, I should have known I wasn't going to like it. I don't like plumping lip glosses. Right from that minty smell, which of course it's also called Mint Melt, so I should have predicted that it was going to have a very synthetic minty smell to it. It's like a mint chemical smell, but regardless, it does produce that like cooling sensation on the lips. It's not really painful, but I just don't like the feeling of it. It reminds me very much of the Buxom glosses, which I find you kind of either love or hate. I am definitely in the hate camp on those ones, and this is no different. So while the shade is pretty, while it does have nice pigmentation and it actually feels nice on the lips in terms of the consistency of it, it's not too thick, it's not sticky. I just don't like that like cooling sensation, that weird tingle that it gives. Not my cup of tea, so this one is a big old fail for me personally. And that's going to bring us to the worst product that I tried in January, and that dubious honor goes to this guy here. This is one of their little bite-sized palettes in Mint to Be. It looks so pretty. Like it's the color story that sucked me in on this. I think it's so pretty. It's so powdery. These shades here, I mean, I'm going to include some swatches. They're so dusty. This mint shade here, which should be the star of the show, just doesn't show up at all. And I tried to build these swatches up. Then these 2 shimmer shadows here, they just really leave me wanting more. And so this is just one of those palettes that even though it only had a $4 price point or something along those lines, it still wasn't worth that amount. So this is one that I'm just sorely disappointed by because I really loved the color story, but the performance is just not there. So those are the worst products that I tried out of the month. So now we're gonna like move into middle of the pack. Don't really hate them, don't really love them. They're just, well, you'll see. I'll talk about them as we go through. So since we just talked about one of the mini palettes from e.l.f., let's talk about the other one from the Mint collection. This one is Mint Chocolate. This one does perform better, but it's hard not to. Let's put it that way. So it's not really like a slam dunk winner over here. But I will say that the mattes do perform much better, although they are on the drier side of things along with the two shimmers. They have like a stiffness to them that makes them a little bit harder to work with than what I have experienced from other e.l.f. palettes in the past. This one kind of disappoints me in that the mint shade that's in here, it's not a standout. It should be, but it's not. So it's really these two browns that perform the best out of these four shades, and for a mint collection, I really want that mint aspect to really play through, and it just doesn't with these palettes. So while it's not the worst one that I've tried, it's not fantastic. Now, as I said earlier, I did pick up a bunch of other e.l.f. products, so let's talk about all of those and get them out of the way. So this guy here is also, again, part of the mint collection. This is the No Budge eyeshadow stick in the shade Mint For You. And I have to be perfectly honest, I haven't used it yet, so I cannot actually give you any information on it. It swatches nicely, but in terms of longevity, I can't weigh in on that. It's just one of those products that every time I look at it, I'm just like uninspired. I don't know. I might bust it out more once we reach spring and summertime, but dead of winter, I haven't really been reaching for it, so can't say much about it. I apologize. Now we've got 4 other e.l.f. products here, and there is one more, but it's going to be in the top 5, so we'll talk about that in a little bit. So this here is the Flawless Satin Foundation, and I have it in the shade Light Ivory, which is described as fair with golden undertones. Now I'm typically not fair, I'm light, but again, I had a really hard time finding one that described what my undertone and depth of skin is. So granted, I was buying it from Walmart, so I wasn't on the full website, so I might have had a limited selection just because they only carry so many. But regardless, I did have a hard time finding the perfect match for me. Now this is one of those foundations that frankly is just forgettable to me. It's neither great nor is it terrible. It just kind of is what it is. It's functional, it's fine, it doesn't knock my socks off, but nor does it look awful. So for that, I mean, if you're in the market for a cheap drugstore foundation, this one gets the job done, but there's really nothing remarkable about it that I can share with you. It just sort of is what it is. And then I picked up 3 of their cheek products as well. So I've got one of their blushes, a bronzer, and a highlighter. They do not really put a lot of information on their packaging, so even reading the shade name is really difficult. Always Rosy. And then the bronzer is Forever Sun-Kissed. I believe both of these are the primer infused powders. And then I have the highlighter here in Rose Gold. So there we have it. Now again, these are products that they're fine. They apply nicely. There's good pigmentation. They blend out. They last well throughout the day on the skin, but they're nothing just that totally wow me. So I'm not going to warn you against them, but I'm also not like, you need to try this, if you know what I mean. Like, it's just kind of middle of the road. If they disappeared from my collection, I wouldn't actually notice that they were gone. They're just there. I will use them, but I don't love them. We'll put it that way. All right, let's switch gears and talk about some eyeshadow palettes. So the one that's on my eyes today is this one here from Nomad Cosmetics. This is the Iceland Fire and Ice palette, and it does have a really pretty color story to it. This is kind of up my alley in terms of what I'm looking for in a colorful palette at this point. There's still enough earthiness to really ground the shades, but there's still some bright pops of color as well. So I'm really enjoying using this. I find that the mattes do blend out really nicely, and the shimmer shadows apply very easily, either with your finger or with a brush. They also all have very good longevity on the eyes, so I really have no complaints about this palette whatsoever. And then I have 3 palettes from BH Cosmetics. So one is the Garnet palette, part of their Birthstone series that they're doing. I didn't do a dedicated review of this palette, but I did sneak it in when I did my review of the Lunar New Year palette. So I'm going to try to put links up in here or link them down in the description for any videos that I can where I've talked about these products in depth. So this one again is Garnet. So far, I mean, there's only been 3 so far, but this is my least favorite of the 3. I like red shadows, I do, but this one, it's just a little bit too pink for my liking, for what's supposed to be a more red palette. So while they perform nicely, it's just the color story is not my favorite out of the 3 that they've done so far, at any rate. So sorry, January babies, you kind of got stiffed on that one, but it does perform really nicely. So if you like the color story, you're not going to be disappointed with how it applies. It's not my favorite color story. And then speaking of not my favorite color stories, we've got these 2 here. So this is Lost in LA and this is Trendy in Tokyo. Lost in LA is very much a pastel palette, which begs the question why it was released in January. It might have been pushed back because of the pandemic, who knows, but it was a weird time for it, but regardless, here it is. I find that it's missing the deeper shades. Like, it needs 1 or 2 to really like add dimension to any look. So when I use this, I find that I need to reach for another palette in order to fill in the gaps that this one's missing. Performance aspect, it's totally fine. The shimmers are beautiful, the mattes blend really nicely, good pigmentation. I have no complaints on that front. It's not a color story that I personally am in love with. This is one of those palettes that frankly, I did purchase it for the sake of doing a review, not because I really was drawn to the color story. Now, when I bought this one, they did have a buy one, get one half off, and that is why I picked up Trendy in Tokyo, because this as well is not a color story that I find I'm gravitating towards very much anymore. Just full on rainbow. So while it's really pretty, I just don't tend to create a lot of rainbow inspired looks anymore. Again, I might when the weather warms up a bit, but middle of winter when it's -20 Celsius, I'm not thinking fun tropical colors. However, I do find that this has some of those shades that I feel are missing from the Los Angeles palette, so they work nicely in conjunction with each other, but on their own, each one from the next, I don't tend to get a lot of use out of them. So I don't hate them, I don't really love them. The shadows are perfectly fine. It's just the color story. Now I do have another product that I haven't yet tested out, and I'm kind of mad at myself for that because I was really excited to try it and it wouldn't be very difficult to do, I just haven't yet. And that's this liquid liner here from Lime Crime. So I picked it up in the shade Wisteria. It's one of their Venus liners. I did have one of their really pale light blue one years ago, and I really liked the formula of it. So I wanted to pick one of these up to test it, and then I just haven't gotten around to doing it. It does have an actual brush tip applicator, but there is enough stiffness to it that you do have precision. So it does lay down product nicely. I am a little concerned that it's going to be a bit streaky, just from swatching it on the back of my hand. I think this is going to be one of those situations where you kind of have to apply 2 or 3 layers to really build up the opacity, which is kind of a bummer because I don't remember their light blue one being like that. I will try it at some point. I just haven't, I don't know, done any looks where I thought, yeah, purple liner, that's what this look needs. So I need to make a concerted effort to try it, and once I do, I will probably sneak it into a video somewhere. I'm not going to do a dedicated review on one liner, but I will share my thoughts one way or another with you on how this performs. Got a couple other one-off products here. This one is from Lorac, and this is one of their, what is this called? I don't know. It's a cream shadow, diamond something. I can't remember, it doesn't say what's on here, but regardless, it's in the shade Cashmere, and it's just a really pretty pewter kind of shade. One of you guys recommended this to me, and I'm so sorry, I can't remember who it was, but you were not wrong. These are beautiful. Like, that is gorgeous as like a one and done shade. Maybe throw a little bit of bronzer into the crease and away you go. It's beautiful, and it does last really nicely throughout the day. I don't need like a glitter glue or anything like that to hold it into place, just my regular clean canvas base from Gerard Cosmetics, and it lasts all day, applies really nicely. It's absolutely beautiful. So thank you to whoever recommended this to me, because I do agree, it's fantastic. Then we have this liquid lipstick here from Pat McGrath. It's one of her Liquid Lust lipsticks, and I have it in the shade Divine Nude. She's just released these on her website with I think 8 new shades, but these ones came out at the very end of January as part of the Divine Rose 2 collection, or whatever number we're on now. There was Divine Rose and Divine Nude, and this is such a really pretty pink shade. Like, it's got a good amount of depth to it, but it's really flattering and it's really pretty. Now, while I have heard people complain that they find this to be very drying, I have not discovered that. Now, I have had some of her liquid lipsticks in the past, and I have found that those were a little bit more drying than this. So I don't know if they've tweaked the formula or not, or if just time has changed my opinion on things, but regardless, I find this to be a mostly comfortable liquid lipstick. It's not my favorite of the formulas out there, but it is ranking pretty high up there. I really like the shade of it. I like that it dries down to a transfer-proof finish, and I like that it's fairly easy to remove. I don't have to go in with an actual liquid lipstick remover or like really scrub up my lips to get it off. So I really like this one. There you have it. Rare Beauty came out with some new products in January, and I did pick up one of each from the line. So I picked up one of the cream blushes. I got a deluxe size sample of the like lip balm gloss thing. And then I did get one of the liquid eyeshadows, which I did turn around and return to Sephora because the shade just didn't work for me. And I also found that it was just a bit too sheer for my own liking. However, I kept these two. Now the lip balm, I wouldn't really use it as a lip balm per se. It is more of a lip gloss in my opinion. I'm all for hybrid products, I really am. But when it comes to lip products, kind of either like a lip balm or you're not, in my opinion. So this one I find I use it as a lip gloss, but I wouldn't use this to be like, oh, my lips are so dry, I need to use that product from Rare Beauty. You know what I mean? So this one's in the shade Nearly Neutral. It's pretty, it's fine, there it is, but it's not anything that I can really rave about, so hence it's in the middle of the pack. Of the three products that I tried from Rare though, the cream blush is definitely the winner for me, and I picked it up in Nearly Apricot, I don't know. There it is. It does blend out really nicely. I can use it with a finger, I can use it with a brush. I frankly kind of prefer it with the brush. It has a bit of like a cream to powder kind of finish, so it doesn't get like tacky on the skin or anything of that sort. And I do find that the pigmentation is buildable and does last well throughout the day as well. So we've already talked about the TLB foundation, and I also tried the TLB concealer. This is in the shade 1. So whereas with the foundations they have shades 1, 2, 3, 4, and then they're broken down further under those umbrellas, the concealers are not. So they only have 4 shades of concealer available. And again, I just find that it's difficult to match your undertone when there's such a limited range. Regardless, this one does work for me, but it is a little bit, again, on the peachier side of things, whereas I would prefer it to be more yellow. So there it is applied, and you can see it is very light. I can make it work, but it's not the ideal shade for me. I don't find that it has the level of coverage that I personally need or want, but on a day-to-day, like just running to the grocery store kind of coverage, this one works for me. So on days where I'm not really wearing any other makeup except maybe some lip balm and mascara, this works for me because it can be sheared out and then you don't really see where it ends and where my actual skin begins. But if I am wearing a foundation, especially if I'm wearing the TLB foundation, which runs a little bit deeper on my skin anyways, the contrast between this, which is too light for me, and the foundation, which is too dark for me, becomes a little strong. And we kind of move back into like the KKW days with like all the highlighting going on. Not really the look that I'm going for anymore. So this is one that I just kind of use only when I'm doing very, very bare minimum makeup. So I did try out some other foundations in January, and one of them is the Coverage Foundation from The Ordinary. This one I have in the shade 1.2 YG. The foundation itself, I think is really good. There's one that slightly ranks a little bit higher, and if you watched my review video of this, maybe you're gonna guess which one it is, because I compared the 2 Ordinary foundations together. But regardless, I mean, this cost me less than $7 Canadian. It does offer good coverage. I would say it's in the medium category. You could probably build it up beyond that, but on initial application, you're gonna get medium coverage. It didn't really enhance anything. It did crease a little bit on me and there were signs of wear over the course of the day, but I expect that frankly from any foundation. So I really have no strong complaints against this, and I think it did look really nice on my skin as well. Now before we move into the top 5, I have one honorable mention as one of the best products that I tried in January, and that is this here from Lancome. It's the Lash Idole Mascara. I like this, although I'm not a huge fan of the wand. I'll explain. It's kind of shaped like a spoon or like a foot or something. I don't know. So obviously you've got like the really short bristled side, and then they're a little bit longer and more fanned out on the other. And maybe I'm just an idiot, but like, do you go in with the short side first and then flip it over, or the other way? Or is like one designed only for the upper lash and one for the lower? I don't know. It's too much thought to read into a mascara, but nonetheless, I do find that this helps to really lift my lashes and separate them out. I don't experience any clumping with it. It doesn't flake onto my cheeks and it doesn't smudge. So it checks all the boxes for me. I'm not wild on the wand. However, the formula of the mascara itself sells it to me. Okay, so now we're into the top 5, and it's frankly really hard to rank them because it is kind of comparing apples to oranges. How do you place a foundation above an eyeshadow palette when they have completely different functions? So take my ranking with a grain of salt, but coming in number 5, we're going to talk about this one here from e.l.f. So this is the last product that I tried from them in January, and this is the Wow Brow. So it's your everyday sort of tinted brow gel. There's really nothing fancy or fussy about it. That's kind of what I like about it. I like that there's no crunchiness to it. It applies really nicely. It does add a bit of tint to my brows and just help to fill in any little sparser areas. And it has sort of like a light to medium control, I would say. So on a day-to-day basis, when I'm looking for more natural looking makeup, this one gets the job done. Now, if you're in the market for super strength in your brow gel, go for the one from Sigma. I do have that one as well, but I don't bust it out very often because it's wildly aggressive. This one I much prefer. It's much more my speed. I don't have a lot of brow issues. I just kind of want them to look like they're in the same general area, and this one achieves that for me. So for like the $3 or $4 that I paid for it, I'm very happy with it. Then in 4th place is this one here from The Ordinary. This is the Serum foundation. So the other one is the Coverage foundation, and this one is a little bit more lightweight in terms of the coverage. So whereas the other one has a medium coverage, this one is light, buildable, I would say, to like light medium. It's much more runny than the other, so I do find that I have to kind of just put it right on my face and then go in with a sponge. I find both of them work better with a sponge than with a brush, but it looks really nice and really natural on the skin. It lasts well throughout the day. Again, there is a little bit of creasing, but nothing that really drives me crazy at all. And for $6 and some odd cents, you really cannot go wrong. Again, that same shade numbering works, so I find that that's really intuitive, and overall, it's just a really nice product to work with. The Ordinary's killing it. So here's their concealer, just called Concealer, high coverage formula, and I have this in the same shade, 1.2 YG. Very functional packaging, just a little squeeze tube with a very fine nozzle, and a little bit goes a long way with this, and they are not lying when they say high coverage. This can tackle my dark circles, no problem. Again, there is a little bit of creasing. The only reason I keep bringing that up with these Ordinary products is because on their website, they really hammer the point home that it resists creasing. It might resist, but it doesn't mean that it's defeated creasing altogether. So they're not necessarily wrong, but I just want to clarify, it does crease a bit. However, again, it's nothing that like when I look at myself, I'm like, oh God, what's going on? It's not a problem at all, and it lasts really well throughout the day as well. This one cost me less than $6, and it is most definitely one that I can see myself repurchasing when I get through this one. So top 2 then, and coming in 2nd place is the Mini Love palette from Natasha Denona. These shades are right up my alley. Purples and pinks, I find that they just do wonderful things for my green eyes, and the quality that you would expect from Natasha Denona is here in this palette. So I don't really have much more to say than that. Again, I'm going to try to stick a link up here for my actual dedicated review to this, but if you're in the market for a pinky purple palette, look no further because this one is beautiful. And that brings us to my favorite product from January, and that is going to go to Urban Decay and their Hydromaniac foundation. I don't know who I've become where a foundation is my favorite product in a month, especially when I've purchased so many eyeshadow palettes, but here we are. This, I was skeptical about, frankly, because of the name, to be honest. Stay Naked, Hydromaniac, Tinted Glow Hydrator. I like, what? It's not a tinted moisturizer. It is a foundation, but it looks beautiful on the skin. Like, this is a product that I have not heard very many people talking about, like, at all. It's like a sleeper product. Nobody's talking about it, but it's fantastic. I really love this. I have it in the shade 30 Light. It looks beautiful on my skin. It wears so nicely throughout the day. It doesn't feel heavy at all. It really does help to hydrate the skin, so you never have that feeling of like, ugh, I'm wearing makeup, I want it off. You know what I mean? Like some foundations are just too heavy, and by the end of the day, you're like, wash my face, please. This I can wear all day, no complaints. Love it, highly recommend. It's just a big old love fest over here. I could go on and on about it, but you get the point. Okay, and with that, we have covered a lot of products. That's it. Those are the items that I tried in January. It was a lot. Mostly there were wins in there, but there were some duds. I think that's to be expected. And I'm just grateful that most of the duds had a very low price point. So I'm not too upset. I am a little upset that I still haven't tried some products, and I'm still kicking myself over the whole e.l.f. situation. But again, thankfully it wasn't really all that expensive. And this kind of thing is really helping me learn how it is that I make decisions when I'm purchasing makeup. So going forward, I want to think more about what am I genuinely interested in rather than what do I think YouTube is going to be interested in. It's not that I don't care about you guys and what it is that you want to see, but if I don't genuinely care about a product, I am never going to get around to filming with it. That's just how it goes. So I need to keep that in mind, and I'm still working on finding that balance. I would love to just buy all the things and film all the videos, but it's just not realistic. So that's okay. I will take my wins with my losses, and again, thankfully my losses weren't all that expensive this time around. Okay, with all that said, I'm gonna wrap this video up here. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch, and I will see you in my next one. Until then, just be a decent human being. Bye for now.